Here's something most couples don't want to talk about. What if one of you passes away early in retirement? You've built your entire plan as a team. You saved, budgeted, and dreamed together. But if one spouse dies unexpectedly, everything changes. Income drops, taxes often go up, and emotionally, the surviving spouse is left to make major decisions alone. And yet, almost no one plans for this. Hi, I'm Mark Wisniewski, president of Southern Incomes. I help retirees and pre-retirees turn their life savings into reliable income with less stress and fewer surprises. In today's video, we're going to cover a sensitive but essential topic. What happens to your retirement plan if one spouse dies early, and how to prepare before it's too late. If you find this helpful, be sure to like and subscribe. It helps more families find the right guidance when they need it most. Part 1, your expenses don't get cut in half. Let's start with one of the biggest myths I hear from couples. Well, if something happens to one of us, at least our expenses will go down. Not really. Yes, there may be some reductions, one less person to feed, less travel costs, maybe one less cell phone bill, but your major fixed costs, they don't disappear. Your mortgage or rent still needs to be paid. Utilities don't drop significantly. Property taxes, insurance, car expenses, still there. And most healthcare costs actually go up for the surviving spouse. Let's put some numbers to it. If you're currently spending $100,000 a year as a couple and one spouse passes away, you might only see a 20 or 25% drop in spending, not 50%. Meanwhile, you've just lost half of the team managing your money, making decisions, and sharing the stress. That surviving spouse now has to stretch nearly the same expenses over fewer income sources, often while dealing with grief and loneliness and, let's face it, overwhelming paperwork. This is why I say retirement planning isn't just about income, it's about resilience. You have to ask, if something happens to me, will my spouse still be okay financially and emotionally? That question is the foundation for everything else we'll cover next. Part 2, you lose one source of income. The second, and often more damaging impact of losing a spouse is the drop in retirement income. Because while expenses might go down slightly, income usually drops a lot. Here's what typically disappears when one spouse passes away. Social Security. The surviving spouse does keep the higher benefit, but the smaller one goes away completely. That could easily be a loss of $1,500 or $2,000 or even more a month. Pension income. Unless you choose a survivor benefit option, that pension may stop entirely upon the first spouse's death, or it might drop 50%. Annuities. If the contract wasn't set up with joint life or continuation provisions, annuity payments may just end. Two-earner households. If both spouses were working part-time or had part-time consulting income, all of that goes away when one dies. So now you've got fewer income sources, but almost the same expenses. Let's go back to that couple that we talked about earlier, spending $100,000 a year in retirement as a couple. Let's say that they were receiving $40,000 of that from their combined Social Security, $20,000 from a pension, and the remaining $40,000 from investment withdrawals from their portfolio. If one spouse passes away and the smaller Social Security check and half of the pension disappear, that's potentially $15,000 to $20,000 of lost income per year. And that gap now has to be filled by withdrawals from that portfolio, which puts more pressure on those assets that were supposed to last for life. This is where people start to ask, will I need to sell the house? Do I need to cut back on my giving and travel? Is my retirement still sustainable on one income? The key point here is this: the income plan that works for two people may not work the same way for one, which is why couples need to stress test their income plan before something happens, so the surviving spouse isn't left scrambling trying to figure it out. Part 3, the widow's tax penalty. Now, here's the part that surprises most people. Even if you lose income when one spouse passes away, your taxes actually tend to go up. This is called the widow's tax penalty, and it happens because of how the IRS treats surviving spouses. Let me walk you through it. While you're both alive, you're likely filing as married filing jointly, which does give you higher standard deductions, wider tax brackets, and more favorable thresholds for your Medicare premiums and Social Security taxation. But once one spouse passes, the survivor shifts to single filer status, often within the year, and suddenly they're taxed more aggressively, even if their income really hasn't changed that much. For example, a married couple can earn about $117,000 and still stay in the 22% tax bracket. A single filer hits that same bracket at around $47,000. Chances are you didn't think of that one, did you? So, if your surviving spouse is still withdrawing the same amount from an IRA or 401k, they could easily end up in a higher tax bracket just because they're now filing alone. That also affects IRM-AA surcharges. The income threshold for higher Medicare premiums is lower for singles. Taxation on Social Security. More of their benefit may now be taxable. Capital gains exposure. Single filers have less room before hitting higher capital gains tax rates, and certain deductions and tax credits may be reduced or eliminated altogether. This is why planning while both spouses are still alive is such a powerful strategy. Because once that shift happens, the survivor has fewer levers to pull. Here are just a few things that may help reduce the widow's tax penalty. Roth conversions in the years leading up to retirement while you're still in that joint bracket. Coordinated withdrawal sequencing from taxable, tax-deferred, and tax-free accounts. Planning your required minimum distributions, or RMDs, around both spouses' ages and health outlook, and possibly even using certain charitable giving strategies to reduce taxable income in those higher income years. Bottom line, losing a spouse doesn't just create an emotional void, it can also create a permanent tax penalty if you're not prepared. But with some proactive planning, it's possible to reduce that impact and give the surviving spouse more confidence and control. Part 4, the emotional side affects the financial side. When one spouse passes, the surviving partner is left to make major decisions, often alone and overwhelmed. Should I sell the house? Should I change the way the money's invested? Do I need to go back to work part-time? Can I still help the kids or the grandkids? This is why I always tell couples, don't wait for a crisis to figure out your plan. Build clarity into your retirement strategy together. So if the worst does happen, the surviving spouse doesn't have to guess. They just follow the plan that you built as a team. Part 5, how to protect your retirement plan together. So what can you do? You don't need to be able to predict the future. You just need a plan that can adapt to it. Here are a few simple ways couples can protect their retirement plan today. Stress test your income. What happens if one of you passes at 65 or 75? Will the income still be enough? Review survivor benefits, especially for pensions, annuities, and Social Security. Make sure that they're aligned with your goals. Simplify the income map. Both spouses should know which accounts are for income and which accounts are for growth, and how to access them. Plan early for taxes, Roth conversions, smart withdrawal strategies, and even gifting can help reduce future tax burden for a surviving spouse. Keep documents up to date. That includes wills, living trusts, powers of attorney, beneficiary designations, and account access instructions? Are you hiding a spreadsheet with passwords somewhere? None of this is complicated, but it does require a conversation and a plan. Look, this isn't an easy topic to talk about. Hey, let's go grab a coffee and talk about when one of us isn't here anymore. That's not exactly at the top of most couples' lists, right? But the truth is, real retirement planning isn't just about living well, it's about preparing well. If one spouse dies early, the last thing you want is a surviving partner to be left with guesswork, tax surprises, and financial strain. So, if you want help building a plan that protects both of you, book a call with me using the link in the description. We'll walk through your current strategy, stress test it together, and make sure that no matter what happens, neither you nor your spouse will be left figuring it out alone.